How's Annie? How's Annie?
Remember when TV shows actually wrapped things up? Maybe there was a wedding, a graduation, or even the classic "it was all a dream" cop-out that made you throw your remote at the screen? Yeah, not every show got that luxury. This is part 4 of our series on shows that got cancelled with no closure, and judging by your comments from parts 1 through 3, you're all gluttons for emotional punishment. Today, we've got 6 more shows that left us hanging, from genius hackers who couldn't solve their own love lives, to a teen drama that understood you a little too well. Stick around for number 1 because it's the Mount Everest of what the hell just happened finales. Now, before we dive in, be sure to like and subscribe and check out parts 1 through 3 if you missed them. Links are in the description. Now, let's get into it with number 6, The 4400, USA Network. The 4400, yes, we read your comments. This sci-fi series had everything going for it until USA Network decided that coherent storytelling was about as optional as basic cable customer service. The 4400 premiered as a summer miniseries on USA Network in 2004, back when summer series meant cheap programming we can burn off while everyone's watching Friends reruns for the 847th time. But this one was different, and not just because it didn't involve people eating bugs or finding love in hot tubs. The premise was irresistible. Over 50 years, 4,400 people had mysteriously vanished without a trace. Then one day, they all reappeared in a single flash of light near Seattle, which, let's be honest, is probably the least weird thing to happen in Seattle in any given week. None had aged a day, and soon they started developing abilities that made the X-Men look like they needed performance reviews. Joel Gretsch played NTAC agent Tom Baldwin, investigating the returnees with the desperation of a man whose own son was among the disappeared. Jacqueline McKenzie was his partner, Diana Scoris, a federal agent trying to balance world-changing mysteries with single motherhood, because apparently saving the world doesn't come with childcare benefits. And yes, your eyes aren't deceiving you, that was Mahershala Ali, years before his Oscar wins as Richard Tyler, a Korean War veteran trying to figure out why everyone was suddenly obsessed with something called the internet. The show also featured Summer Glau as Tess Domer, because apparently no sci-fi series was complete without casting the woman who would become the patron saint of shows cancelled far too soon. We covered Firefly in part 2 and the Sarah Connor Chronicles in part 3. Poor Summer was definitely developing a pattern here. The show's genius was its slow burn approach to revealing the truth. You know, back when audiences had attention spans longer than a TikTok video. At first, it seemed like classic alien abduction territory because the early 2000s were peak X-Files made us suspicious of everything era. Then came the twist that reframed everything. These people hadn't been taken by aliens at all. They'd been abducted by humans from the future, trying to prevent an apocalyptic timeline by sending back enhanced individuals to guide humanity toward not completely screwing everything up.
You forget. I've seen the world you created. In the oceans where deserts of bone fires filled the horizon. And everywhere I walked, I was screaming.
By season 4, things had gone completely off the rails in the best way possible. The mysterious Promescent serum, which could either grant you superpowers or kill you instantly like the world's deadliest lottery ticket, had been released into Seattle's water supply. Entire populations were either dying or developing powers that made rush hour even more complicated than usual. Seattle transformed into Promise City, a superhuman haven led by the charismatic Jordan Collier, played by Billy Campbell, who had the kind of messianic complex that made cult leaders jealous. It was setting up for a massive confrontation between those who saw the 4400 as humanity's salvation and those who thought maybe giving random people superpowers wasn't the best urban planning strategy. And then, canceled, faster than you could say budget concerns. The series ended with more unresolved cliffhangers than a soap opera marathon. Jordan consolidating powers, Tom facing his own transformation after getting dosed with Promescent, Diana reunited with her precognitive adopted daughter Maya, and an uncertain world teetering between evolution and civil war. USA Network's reasoning was predictably corporate, declining ratings and rising production costs. Because apparently a show about the future of human evolution wasn't worth the investment when you could just air more Law & Order reruns instead. Fans launched the kind of passionate campaign that would become standard for canceled sci-fi shows. Online petitions, letter-writing campaigns, and forum discussions so detailed they could have been doctoral dissertations. Creator Scott Peters even revealed some Season 5 plans in interviews, but nothing official ever materialized because networks hate giving fans what they actually want. The CW tried a reboot in 2021, but it missed the mark so spectacularly it got canceled after one season, proving that sometimes lightning doesn't strike twice, especially when you're holding a broken lightning rod. So, apparently, even when you get a second chance at television, some shows are just destined to disappear. Number 5. True Calling. Fox. True Calling, one of the most painful what could have been endings in Fox's impressive catalog of sci-fi show murders. This supernatural drama starred Eliza Dushku as True Davies, a medical student working the night shift at a city morgue who discovered she had the world's most depressing superpower. Dead bodies would whisper, "Help me," triggering a time loop that let her relive the day and prevent their deaths. Think Groundhog Day, but with a body count and significantly more existential dread about whether you're actually helping or just postponing the inevitable. The supporting cast included Sean Reeves as True's loyal brother Harrison, who somehow managed to be supportive without asking too many questions about his sister's increasingly erratic behavior. AJ Cook as her best friend Lindsay, and Zach Galifianakis, yes, that Zach Galifianakis, in a rare dramatic turn as her quirky morgue boss Davis, because apparently even future comedy legends need to pay rent in between seasons of Between Two Ferns. The show hit its stride in Season 2 when Jason Priestley, Mr. 90210 himself, joined as Jack Harper, a mysterious counterpart who could also rewind days but had the opposite mission. Instead of saving lives, he believed fate demanded the deaths stay permanent. True vs. Jack became a philosophical chess game about destiny itself, with actual human lives as the pieces and a ticking clock that reset every 24 hours. But Fox being Fox, gave it the full Firefly treatment. After a shortened first season that barely found its footing and constant schedule shuffling that made finding the show harder than solving a murder, Season 2 managed only 6 aired episodes before the network pulled the plug faster than this show could say help me. The final aired episode ended mid-arc, with Jack gaining the upper hand, True questioning whether her interventions were actually making things worse, and huge revelations about the nature of her power still dangling like a broken promise. Even worse, several completed episodes never aired in the US until years later, because nothing says we respect our audience investment like hoarding finished content in a vault somewhere while fans desperately search for closure. Like so many Fox genre shows, True Calling never got the chance to finish its story about second chances. Instead, it left viewers stuck in their own time loop, constantly wondering what would have happened next, but without the power to go back and fix Fox's scheduling decisions. If only True could have hit rewind on the day that Fox decided to cancel her show, but apparently even supernatural powers are no match for network stupidity. Number 4. My So-Called Life. ABC. My So-Called Life, the show that perfectly captured the agony of being 15, only to get canceled before anyone could graduate. Now, if you were a teenager in the mid-90s, or if you still have the soundtrack buried somewhere in your CD collection next to your copy of Reality Bites, this cancellation probably still stings like a rejection note passed in study hall. My So-Called Life premiered on ABC in August of 1994, when the network was desperately trying to find the next big thing between Home Improvement reruns and whatever TGIF was serving up that week. Claire Danes starred as Angela Chase, a 15-year-old navigating the emotional minefield of high school with the kind of earnest intensity that made you remember why adolescence felt like the end of the world on a daily basis. Angela's world included Rayanne Graff, played by AJ Langer, the reckless best friend whose self-destructive tendencies masked deep insecurity. Ricky Vasquez, played by Wilson Cruz, one of the first openly gay teen characters on network television, and Jordan Catalano, played by a young Jared Leto, who basically made leaning against lockers look like performance art while breaking hearts with the emotional intelligence of a beautiful brick wall. Created by Winnie Holtzman, who would later help create Wicked on Broadway, the show captured teenage life with a rawness that made other teen-focused programming look like greeting cards. Parents were confused and often useless. Friends betrayed each other and made up in the same episode. First love felt like both salvation and destruction. sometimes within the same conversation. The show's genius was in Angela's voiceover narration that perfectly captured the self-absorbed profundity of adolescence, the way characters spoke in half sentences and unfinished thoughts, the authentic messiness of families trying to understand each other across generational gaps that felt wider than the Grand Canyon. Critics were stunned. Teenagers felt seen in a way that television had never offered before. Danes even won a Golden Globe at just 15 years old, making her the youngest winner in the drama category. But ABC didn't know what to do with it. Ratings were respectable but not spectacular, hovering around 10 million viewers, which sounds amazing now but felt disappointing in 1994's television landscape when everything was expected to be a massive hit. The show was expensive to produce, and Danes herself was reportedly hesitant about committing to a long-term series while still in high school. After just 19 episodes, not even a full season by today's standards, ABC quietly announced the show wouldn't be returning. The decision felt especially cruel because the series was hitting its creative stride just as it got axed.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, keep going.
I was just leaving.
Because of me? I'm not even supposed to be in here.
Me neither.
The finale, In Dreams Begin Responsibilities, left multiple storylines hanging in devastating fashion. Jordan Catalano was finally trying to win Angela back after their messy breakup. Brian Krakow had confessed his feelings in a letter he'd ghostwritten for Jordan, and Angela's relationships with her family and friends were even more complicated than ever. The last scene showed Angela getting into a car with Jordan, but we never found out where that relationship, or any of the others, would lead. There was no prom episode, no senior year, no resolution to any of the carefully crafted character arcs that made the show so compelling. Just 19 perfect episodes and a legacy as one of the most beloved and brutally canceled teen dramas in television history. The show's influence echoes through every teen drama that followed, from Freaks and Geeks to Friday Night Lights to Euphoria. Wilson Cruz has said that fans still approach him decades later to thank him for Ricky's representation as a gay Latino teenager struggling with identity and family acceptance. The show really was a vibe and apparently too good to last. Turns out the real lesson ABC taught us wasn't about growing up, it was about getting your heart broken by network executives who couldn't recognize greatness when it was staring them in the face. Now, if you've yelled they never finished that story, smash that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment about which show still haunts you to this day. Now, back to the heartbreak with number 3, The Glades. A&E. The Glades, the show that half of you mentioned in the comments, and honestly, we should have covered this sooner. This was proof that even in the golden age of prestige television, networks could still find new and creative ways to break viewers' hearts.
Jim Longworth.
You're a cop?
Lieutenant.
Premiering on A&E in 2010 when the network was having an identity crisis somewhere between arts and entertainment and Americans eating things they shouldn't on camera, The Glades followed Detective Jim Longworth, played by Matt Passmore, with enough laid-back charm to make Florida seem like a vacation destination instead of America's weirdest news headline generator. Jim was a Chicago cop who got shot by his own boss because apparently workplace disputes in the Windy City escalate faster than road rage, so he traded snow and corruption for palm trees and a suspicious number of murders in the Everglades, where the wildlife is dangerous but the murder rate is somehow higher. It was like CSI Miami without David Caruso's sunglasses obsession and dialogue that sounded like it was written by a soap opera robot. Here's a bit of fun trivia though. Matt Passmore was actually Australian, but made Jim's laid-back American charm look so effortless that he fooled an entire country into thinking golf shirts and boat shoes were legitimate detective attire. The show's secret weapon was perfect tone balance. Crime procedural meets romantic comedy with just enough Florida weirdness to keep things interesting. It wasn't trying to reinvent television, it was comfort food for crime drama fans, like Mac and Cheese but with more dead bodies.
Sign, date, and initial were indicated.
What am I signing?
You're releasing the medical center from any kind of liability should you lose your hand or die from infection due to my incompetence.
I'm not signing this.
You will if you want your pants back.
The will they won't they tension between Jim and Nurse Callie Cargill, played by Kylie Sanchez, who somehow made falling for a cop whose idea of a romantic date was want to come check out this crime scene seem like a reasonable life choice, gave viewers something to root for beyond the weekly body count. And audiences ate it up. The Glades became A&E's highest-rated original drama, pulling in around 3.6 million viewers who apparently enjoyed their murder mysteries with a side of sunshine and golf course banter. For a cable network that usually relied on reality TV about people who couldn't throw anything away, this was basically winning the television lottery. But then came the season 4 finale, the one that turned loyal fans into people who will still wake up angry about television shows that ended a decade ago. Picture this setup. Jim and Callie are finally about to get married. 4 seasons of romantic tension, false starts, and will they ever figure this out moments all leading up to the big day. The house is decorated like a Florida wedding magazine threw up sunshine and flowers. The champagne is chilling. Jim even squeezes in a quick round of golf because priorities are priorities, even on your wedding day. He's walking into his house, probably thinking about honeymoon destinations and whether he'll need to pack his detective badge for the trip when, bang, gunshot to the chest, Jim collapses, screen cuts to black, roll credits. And then, canceled. We never found out who shot him. We never learned if he survived. Callie never got her wedding. 4 seasons of carefully built character development and relationship investment obliterated by one gunshot that felt like the writers were playing the cruelest practical joke in television history. Oh, and do you want to hear A&E's explanation for the cancellation? There wasn't one. Complete radio silence. A&E's idea of closure was apparently gunshot and good luck figuring it out yourselves. Fan theories ranged from budget cuts to the network wanting to focus on Longmire, which had premiered around the same time and probably cost less than Florida location shooting. Social media exploded with the kind of righteous fury usually reserved for overcooking the turkey at Thanksgiving. Even now, over a decade later, you can still find people tweeting who shot Jim Longworth with the dedication of actual cold case detectives, leaving fans with more unresolved tension than a family dinner party during the holidays. A&E proved that sometimes the biggest mystery is why networks hate their own success stories. Number 2, Scorpion, CBS. Now, with Scorpion, we're bending our usual timeline here because this one was too brutal to ignore. CBS is based on a true story tech action drama about genius misfits saving the world with math, hacking, and occasionally duct tape. Scorpion premiered on CBS in September of 2014 when the network was desperately trying to prove they could do more than just air NCIS spin-offs and whatever procedural drama was keeping your parents glued to their recliners. The show was supposedly inspired by the real-life Walter O'Brien, though viewers quickly learned to take the true story claims with about as much salt as you'd need to defuse a nuclear reactor, which, coincidentally, they actually did in one episode. Elyes Gabel starred as Walter O'Brien, the Irish computer prodigy, leading a team of brainiacs that made the Big Bang Theory look like community college rejects. Katharine McPhee played Paige, the normal single mom who translated geek speak for clients and gave Walter a slow-burn romance that made viewers actually care about emotions in a show about algorithms. The supporting cast included Jaden Wong as Happy Quinn, the mechanical genius who could fix anything except her own trust issues, and Eddie K. Thomas as Toby Curtis, the behavioral expert whose biggest challenge was convincing anyone to take him seriously. For 4 seasons, Scorpion thrived on Mission Impossible for Nerds energy. The plots were gloriously outrageous. One week they were stopping a plane crash with a PlayStation controller, the next they were defusing a nuclear reactor with table salt. Because apparently, when you're a genius, everything becomes a science experiment and the laws of physics are more like gentle suggestions. Viewers tuned in partly for the MacGyver-level problem-solving that made rocket science look like a crossword puzzle, but mostly for the found family dynamic and whether Walter would finally figure out that feelings weren't a code he could crack with enough processing power. The show had its critics. Actual scientists loved pointing out that half the solutions would result in spectacular explosions rather than world-saving heroics, but fans didn't care about scientific accuracy. Not when they were watching a team of misfits use everything from drones to dental floss to save humanity on a weekly basis. And then came April 16, 2018. The finale, A Lie in the Sand, left multiple storylines hanging in devastating fashion. Walter and Paige had finally admitted their feelings after years of romantic tension, only to have Walter torpedo everything by lying about his emotions in front of the whole team. Happy and Toby's marriage was on shaky ground, Sylvester's political career was uncertain, and the team had fractured into rival factions like a tech startup divorce. The last scene showed them split apart with no clear path to reconciliation, and Walter potentially losing the only family he'd ever known. No reunion episode, No Season 5 reconciliation arc, no resolution to any of the carefully crafted relationship dynamics that had made the whole show so compelling. Just 93 episodes of brilliant problem solving ended with the one puzzle Walter couldn't solve: how to keep his team together. CBS's reasoning was predictably corporate, declining ratings, and the usual budget concerns. The show had been averaging around 8 million viewers, which sounds impressive until you remember that this is CBS, where anything under 12 million gets you a stern talking to from the network executives. For loyal fans, Scorpion's abrupt ending felt less like cancellation and more like emotional sabotage. Turns out the only problem Walter couldn't solve was how to keep CBS from pulling the plug on his found family. Number 1. Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks, the granddaddy of unresolved finales, the show that made coffee feel existential, and the masterpiece that taught an entire generation not to trust television networks with their emotional well-being. Twin Peaks premiered on ABC in April of 1990, created by David Lynch and Mark Frost, and immediately broke television's brain.
There it is. Oh my God, here it is.
What?
Would you leave us, please?
Jim.
Would you leave us alone, please?
Oh, certainly.
It started with a simple question: who killed Lara Palmer? But instead of delivering a tidy procedural where the butler did it, audiences got a surreal, funny, terrifying journey into small-town America that made Northern Exposure look like a documentary. Kyle MacLachlan starred as FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper, a man so enthusiastic about investigating murder that he made it seem like the world's most cheerful profession. Sent to the Pacific Northwest logging town of Twin Peaks, Cooper brought Tibetan crime-solving techniques, an unhealthy obsession with damn fine coffee, and enough quirky charm to make supernatural weirdness feel like a cozy bed and breakfast experience. The supporting cast was basically a masterclass in how to make weird characters feel real. Sherilyn Fenn as the seductive Audrey Horne, who could make tying a cherry stem with her tongue look like high art. Lara Flynn Boyle as Ernest Donna Hayward. Dana Ashbrook as volatile Bobby Briggs, plus the Log Lady, who somehow made talking to wood seem perfectly reasonable, and Agent Cooper's tape recorder confessions to an unseen Diane that launched 1,000 conspiracy theories. The first season was a cultural phenomenon that made appointment television actually matter again. People gathered for viewing parties like it was the Super Bowl of weird. Lynch and Frost had created something that felt like watching someone else's hallucination. It was beautiful, disturbing, and completely unpredictable. Then, ABC made the classic network mistake. They demanded answers before the creators were ready to give them. Pressured to reveal Lara Palmer's killer earlier than planned to boost sagging Season 2 ratings, Lynch and Frost complied and watched their carefully constructed mystery lose its magic faster than a backwards talking dwarf explaining the plot. By the time Season 2 was limping toward its conclusion like a wounded owl, ABC had already decided the show's fate, but not before delivering one of the most traumatic cliffhangers in television history. In the season finale, Cooper enters the mysterious Black Lodge to rescue Annie Blackburn. Inside this supernatural waiting room that looked like a 1940s nightclub designed by Edgar Allan Poe, he faces his evil doppelganger in a backwards talking nightmare sequence that made David Bowie music videos seem straightforward. Cooper appears to escape and return to the real world, but in the final scene, as he's brushing his teeth in his hotel bathroom, something's clearly wrong. He smashes his head into the mirror, revealing that his evil doppelganger has taken his place. The last image is Cooper, or the malevolent thing wearing his face, laughing maniacally while blood streams down his forehead, and then cancelled. No explanation, no resolution, just evil laughter echoing into the void. For 25 years, fans were left with that maniacal laughter haunting their nightmares. That mirror smash became the gold standard for traumatic television endings, spawning more fan theories than the Kennedy assassination. Showtime finally revived Twin Peaks in 2017 with The Return, giving Lynch complete creative control. But for fans who lived through that 1991 finale, the wound never healed. That evil Cooper's laughter had echoed for an entire generation, proving that sometimes television can traumatize you more effectively than actual horror movies. For unresolved finales that truly mattered, nothing tops Twin Peaks. It didn't just get canceled, it got murdered, and we spent 25 years trying to solve the case ourselves. And there you have it, 6 more shows that left us asking ourselves, wait, was that it? Which cancellation hit you hardest? Which ones did we miss? Let us know in the comment section below because we have a feeling we'll need a part 5. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more nostalgic TV deep dives, and until next time, this is Remember When.